welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know this game?
Take a picture for $5. You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back, Outside Minds, to the Outside Minds podcast. I'm your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
We got a special guest today that we met from TikTok. Her name is Marisa Tragsiel. Let our listeners know a little bit about yourself and where they can find you.
Hi. Yes. So my name is Marisa Tragsiel. I am from San Francisco Bay Area. Right now you can find me on TikTok. It's just my name, Marisa Tragsiel. And yeah, so I am a vegan chef, specifically alkaline. I have been studying Dr. Sebi's work for about 7 years now.
Okay.
What else? I am very much into spirituality. I have a really different perspective of an approach to spirituality than I think most people do. And so I felt like it was about time for me to start actually putting my knowledge and my work out there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I know you said that you've been spiritual your whole life. It kind of started young. Were there any experiences you had as a child that kind of pushed you into spirituality or anything like that? Or was it something that you've always inherently been into?
Yeah, I think I was always just exposed to a lot of different kinds of spiritualities to start with. So I was just always really open-minded from the jump because, being from the Bay Area, San Francisco specifically is like a huge melting pot for any kind of person.
Yep.
From Aztec spirituality, like it's like a thing, from carnival parades, like they lead the parade, to a whole plethora of different African spiritualities, the whole nine. And then, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up with that side of things as well. But as far as experiences, as a child, I had a lot of out-of-body experiences.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like I would be, laying down in my bed. They talk about sleep paralysis where, you astral project, you hover over your body.
Yeah.
I was really hyper aware of astral projection. And then on top of that, I would have a lot of experiences where they call it mirror meditation, but I didn't know what it was as a kid. I was just doing it.
You were just staring in the mirror and seeing what happens?
I was just staring in the mirror and I'm like, yo, what is going on?
No, it's crazy. I saw a video on TikTok. They said if you stare long enough into the mirror at yourself and you just focus at yourself, it'll just start to morph and your mind will just play tricks on you and stuff.
Yeah, imagine that on mushrooms. I've done that.
I can't do that.
Actually on mushrooms, they say don't.
They say don't, but I like to test the limits.
Yeah. Well, so at least what happens to me and what I've heard happens to other people is if you make eye contact with yourself in the mirror, then your energy body leaves your body. So it's not like I literally saw two versions of myself, but I was
a version of yourself left you.
Yeah, and so it's definitely an out-of-body experience where you get this instant realization that you're not a human.
Oh, yeah,
and so you're like, oh my God, like, I'm not a human. What is this world that I live in? And it's just these questions.
Yeah.
Like,
that's that same, our guest 2 episodes ago had the same realization when he had an OBB. He had an overdose in his room. And he said, as soon as that happened to me, I was like, he is like, if I'm here and that's my body, that means I'm not my body.
Yep.
So the fact that you just have those realizations as soon as it happens, is just like, it's a universal.
It breaks your world because then you question everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is the core. This is you. This is where it starts. And then you're like, well, if I'm not me, then what is everything else around me?
Yeah. So
yeah, literally.
So do you? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, much later in my spiritual journey, one of my, because a spiritual journey is like a series of multiple awakenings, and one of my awakenings, I was literally just like walking down the street, I think going to pick up some food, and I'm fully awake, I'm active, I'm walking, and I had this instant visualization where it felt like more than a visualization, but I wasn't like unable to still, go about what I was doing. But I got pushed out of my body to where I was almost in like outer space, right? Wow. And it wasn't an astral projection. It was like I was experiencing my own death visually.
It was like a realization almost of your death.
Yeah, it was like almost like this is what death is, right?
Oh, okay.
I saw my body on the ground. I got pushed out to outer space, but it wasn't like my body got pushed out and I was like flying. It wasn't astral projection. It was like the whole world was in my visual sight now.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, that chapter's over. Let's move on to the next chapter. That movie is over. Let's watch another movie.
Yeah.
And I realized every person's life, every person's reality is connected to mine.
Yeah, and there you go.
That was just one movie playing.
Dang.
And it's over now. Now let's move on to the next chapter.
Wow. Okay. Damn, that's really profound. So did you inherently know that you had like healing gifts and stuff like that your whole life, or did your spiritual journey kind of reveal those to you as time passed?
I didn't really know that the things that I later identified as like healing abilities were healing abilities. I just always thought like I just be peeping shit.
It's
like,
just something that happens, to you.
I mean, everybody has the ability to do it, but some people are a little bit more in tune than others.
Yeah,
so
they're not tapped. Yeah,
that's
some
why
people are more tapped in.
That's why people consider it a gift to some people because it's a
I'm
little
a
bit easier
dancer,
for them.
right? And so for example, when it came to like massage, right? Like massage is a thing that you're in dance class, when you're sitting on the side, everybody's giving each other massages. But like I was always the one where, Marisa, can you give me a massage? I need Marisa massage. Where's Marisa at? And that became like a pattern in my life where my mom is always requesting massages. Even to this day, like my best friend is always everyone's requesting
Got that magic touch.
And I realized that I think when I realized it was like a healing ability was when I realized other people were not able to massage for the reason I was. Like for me, it wasn't like I looked up a bunch of YouTube videos on techniques or anything like that. Like it was purely intuitive, but it's mostly because when I put my hands on you or hover over you, I can feel like where your tension is.
That energy,
is. And it wasn't like, I didn't really realize though, like, that's what was happening. I just thought people could do it,
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been rubbing out someone's tension or someone's knots in their back or their neck, and then your own back or neck pops in that same place?
Something like that. It's more like an energetic feeling.
Okay.
But sometimes I wouldn't say the same place, but I definitely, like, if I'm massaging somebody, sometimes similar things happen, or like I'll end up cracking my own back.
Yeah.
But on a more energetic level, it's like, how sometimes you can't really describe your pain. You'll be like somebody will be, oh, is it sharp? Is it dull? And you're like, I don't really know how to describe it. Or you give like a really rough estimate on like where the location is. I can kind of feel like what's going on to fill in the gaps. And then I can feel it in my body where it's located in you. And as I'm like massaging it out, the tension in my own body starts to relieve.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to fix my back.
Yeah,
I really need to become a licensed massager.
You should do it. You should do it. I hear that you got to be careful with that kind of stuff, though, especially because when it comes to the body and having tension in your body and stuff, it's really a physical manifestation of the emotions that people are holding on to and stuff like that. And I know that my mom does hair, and her medium told her whenever she has her clients, what she has to do is wash her hands with salt. That way she could cleanse her energy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's really all about if you're being some kind of healer or having someone...
are you taking the energy from them? Are you taking the pain from like them?
That, you got to make sure you're grounded too so that the energy's flowing through you and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and you're not accepting
really
it from them.
It's really the kind of thing, like, I think a lot of people rush into healing work, right? Like, when they realize, oh, I'm really good at this, or oh, I like helping people. Like whether it's spiritual healing work or they just want to start working in medicine because they want to be helpful and of service to the community. I think a lot of people tend to really rush into it, and it's like you may have this desire or talent, but if you don't have the skills and or spiritual strength to keep yourself protected, you're not going to be helpful to anybody.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and then that kind of goes into Reiki work. It's like, I don't demonize Reiki. However, there are a lot of people in the world of Reiki who end up, I guess you could say, manipulating people's energy.
They use it for their own benefits instead of kind of helping.
Well, also too.
They don't even realize it.
Yeah. Also, too, when I was reading about healing and stuff like that, I also learned that you have to ask the other person's higher self as well as your higher self if this is beneficial for them. Because if you don't get permission from them, you might be healing something from them that's tied to their karmic debt. And you will actually be
inheriting it.
You won't be inheriting it, but you'll be infringing upon their spiritual path and upon the karma that they have to learn and stuff like that.
Yeah, that touches on what I was about to say. Yeah, I feel like when you want to be helpful to people, you just want to fix people's problems. But the problem is anybody's problems, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, like these are all symptoms of like deeper karmic issues that like need to be resolved by people making choices, and people have to learn lessons. And so if you intervene too much, then it's like you can only save people so much, right?
Absolutely.
Like when it comes to healing work, I mean, just even on a nutritionist, vegan, alkaline level, right? Like I have people all around me who I could easily be like, hey, like I could really solve your problems. Like I have the food, I have the recipes, I have the herbs. Like I can hand it to you on a silver platter. Will they do it? No.
Totally up to them, and most likely they won't.
Yeah, it's completely up to them. They have to have already put in enough effort, both mentally, spiritually, and in the physical world before they come to you and before you say, okay, cool, I can help you. Because then you're just boosting them on a path that they're already on versus trying to tell somebody, hey, like this path is a good path, you should be on it. You don't know that. You don't know it might not be the right time. You don't know what kind of mental work they have to do prior.
Absolutely.
You know, like, yeah, you could really mess somebody's journey up.
Speaking of energy, we were talking a little bit about cord cutting. Can you go into that a little bit and explain what it's about and if you offer that as a service or not?
Yeah, I don't do rituals. Not that I never will, but I don't do rituals. It's not my area. But I am knowledgeable, you know.
Okay.
And so my thing, you know, what I was explaining to you is I think that rituals have their place and are powerful in the same way that prayer.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna mention the Ho'oponopono prayer from Hawaii. That's kind of like a cord cutting prayer as opposed to a ritual.
Right. So all of these different things are different forms of rituals. Like a prayer is a form of a ritual, right? It's this, you know, action. It's this thing that happens. It's a ceremony that happens, whether it's big or small. where it's giving you spiritual permission to cut off a tie to someone. And so for me, instead of doing a ritual, I more so take the approach of, well, let's look at why did you actually want that attachment in the first place? Because this is bigger than that.
Yeah,
like,
you're getting to the root of it.
It's almost like people with addiction, right? It's like alcohol is the problem, but something led them to use the alcohol.
Yeah.
So you got to go down and fix that problem, and then work your way up.
Yep.
Exactly. And it's like, I think right now, you know, people get really obsessed with like twin flames and soulmates and things like that. And I'm not saying that they're not real. Like, I understand what it's like to see yourself in another body. But at the same time, this world that we live in, like, your life is your manifestation. It's your projection. So if you met a twin flame, it's because you wanted to meet a twin flame. If you wanted an attachment, it's because you really wanted an attachment. Now, obviously, there could be a plethora of reasons underlying between that, but, you know, it's like, let's really get to the root of the problem and empower yourself to realize, like, oh, actually, I created this.
Yes.
Now, obviously, it takes two to tango. You're not responsible for the other person in the scenario. Do what you have to do. However, when it comes to you and your spiritual attachment to them, you can as easily cut it off as you did attach yourself to them. It's just about getting yourself to a spiritually confident enough place where you believe in your ability to do that.
Okay. Nice.
Stand toes down.
You're putting us on right now. Is great. You got a lot of knowledge, and you said there's a few different, like, I guess, religious systems or magic systems or belief systems or whatever. You mentioned Yoruba and Brujeria. Are there any crazy magic stories or anything like that you can share with us that you may have came across in your lifetime or anything like that?
No, because I'm not practitioners of any of them. So my exposure to all of these different things is actually through dance. So I did the whole, like, ballet, modern, all that, because when you're in the dance world, that's kind of like the foundation in order for you to rise up in the dance world. You just have to have that. But my area of focus was like West African, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Cuban, Afro-Haitian, Afro-Peruvian, you know, like literally the Afro-Latin diasporic world, right? And obviously, I mean, I was a kid, so a lot of it in the very beginning, I just thought I was dancing. You know, I just thought I was doing cultural dances, but it really didn't take long, because being from the Bay Area, the Bay is not commercialized. It is not mainstream. It is not commercialized.
Oh yeah, I agree. I was gonna ask you if you listen to Mac Dre, but I mean, it was probably gonna be a stupid question.
Yeah. But yeah, because, like, you know, in contrast to LA is very Hollywood, commercial, mainstream, right? But the Bay Area protects itself from that. And so because of that, we actually have some of the most amazing dance teachers that, like, really practice. They really are from the culture.
And keep the culture. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They really understand these spiritual practices and practice them, you know.
Wow.
And so I was doing the theatrical versions of these dances, but they're tied to religions. They're tied to Santeria, Yoruba, you know, the whole nine. And so I was taught to also have very deep respect for them.
Absolutely.
But because I had all this exposure, it just taught me so much about how all of these spiritualities are connected, like voodoo, hoodoo,
absolutely,
vodou, candomblé. They're all related to Yoruba, right? So they're all. Do you know about the relationship between those religions and Yoruba?
No, but I do know that I mean, all of it, everything, whether it's magic, religion, philosophy, spiritual system, it's all a perspective of primordial knowledge, which is basically the knowledge of higher consciousness before man. And everything that trickles down from that is from a different lens. I don't really know too much about the systems you just mentioned, but I'd love for you to expand on it.
Yeah, so more specifically, it's because of slavery. So,
Okay.
Because of slavery. And then, you could also argue that obviously there were Black people on these continents prior to slavery. But
well, I do know that they were, I don't know if this is what you're going to get into or not, but I do know that some of their systems, they had to kind of use other religions and stuff like that. So I think they do in Santeria, where they have their system.
Where they use the faces of Catholic.
Different saints in order to represent whatever their energies they got to represent. Yeah.
And it's just so that they were able to actually practice without getting in trouble for it. But, it's just to say that like Santeria, Candomblé, Vodou, like these practices are literal spawns off of Yoruba, because Yoruba came through the slave trade, right? And and then also obviously up here, like voodoo is also related, hoodoo related, like they're a family of spiritual practices. Brujeria is included as well. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say so like I don't practice, but it really had a massive impact on my lens of spirituality. Like it's my foundation.
Okay, that's what I was just gonna ask you, because me myself, like I like to study all different religions and religious systems and belief systems and stuff like that. And the ones that I found really resonate with me are Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and there was one other one. There's certain things. Oh, and Hinduism. Hinduism really resonates with me, just because the ideas and the concepts, the way they convey them, just really got things to click for me in a certain way, to where I'm just like, oh, they're all actually talking about the same thing with the same concepts. They're just using like different words, like, you know what I'm saying? And I think.
Literally everybody is, whether you're talking about African religions, Indian religion. I mean, the yogic sciences, even like the word yogi, it's like yoga even originated from Africa. So obviously it's like there's going to be this strong relationship between what they're all saying. It's like Ayurveda is so closely tied. And for me personally, I also love looking at the way that they're all saying the same thing in different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of people get hell-bent and focused on the differences and why this one is false and why this one's better. And I kind of come more from the perspective of, well, let me figure out the way where they all make sense together, and maybe that's going to make more sense as to why people are so ride or die for their beliefs. Because why would I spend time saying that something is false for somebody else?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes no sense, because also a lot of different spiritual practices are reflective of culture as well.
Definitely.
So it's not even to say that like one is right, one is wrong. Well, this one highlights this kind of spiritual practice because this is also part of their culture, and their culture highlights this way of life, or this, it's like Japanese culture is very like quiet and respectful and, slow, and, that's their culture. So obviously their spiritual practices, it's like Buddhism. It's very quiet,
all about Zen and tranquility.
Meditation, and different cultures are going to highlight different really amazing, beautiful aspects of life, and they're gonna develop an expertise in whatever aspect of life they highlight. And so I mean, really, every religion is a science. Every single religion is a science. And so when you get onto, because I know y'all talk about like quantum physics a lot, when you get onto the mathematical and scientific level, or even the herbalism, medicine, like we literally could put all these pieces together.
Speaking of religion and everything having their own sciences and mathematics and stuff like that, do you get into any kind of divination at all, whether it's numerology, reading tea leaves, or tarot, or anything like that?
I do love numerology.
Okay.
Numerology is fun. I don't do tarot reading. I don't do tea leaves or anything like that. But I do enjoy numerology because I'm a math nerd. Like,
Oh, okay.
Oh, same.
That makes sense.
yeah, my grandpa was a physics professor in
nice.
Peru for hella years. My dad, like, I would have visitation with him in the summer. He would literally create homework for me, and it was math. He's like, you need to learn your times tables, you know.
Nice.
That's
Like,
good.
So for me, math is just super. Well, but what's funny is I resisted it for so long, and then one day I had an epiphany, and I was like, oh shit, like math is just a puzzle.
Yeah.
There's always a right answer.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out how. You just have to also be willing to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like once I stopped creating anxiety around math, I was like, oh well. I mean, in certain scenarios, it requires critical thinking, but once you have the formula, you just do the formula, and what's there is there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plug and play.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of your videos on TikTok went a little bit viral. It was about the misters at the grocery store that spraying the vegetables and stuff like that. Can you get into that a little bit? Because it was a very interesting fact. I didn't know that fact at all.
Yeah, I got so heated in the comments.
I didn't even see that.
It happens.
Yeah.
That means you're doing something right, though, if you got internet haters.
Yep.
It was super funny. Yeah, I don't respond to everybody, but there was a couple people that I definitely responded to, and it was a little back and forth. But, so basically, the misters, you know, the open produce that's in the refrigerators that gets sprayed with what everybody thinks is water is not actually water. There's a couple different brands of what they use, but for the most part, one of the biggest brands is called Produce Max with 2 X's. And it's a combination. Everybody will tell you, like, oh, it's just hypochlorous acid. And it's like, okay, well, you know, because the argument is that, well, our bodies produce it naturally. It may, but that's not the version that our bodies produce.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this way, I don't recommend a supplement just because our body needs copper. I'm not going to tell you to take a copper supplement. That's not the way your body needs it, you know? And then also, it does have other chemicals in it as well that act as preservatives. They act to keep the produce crispy. That's why you wonder, like, how on earth does this produce just stay good quality in the fridge? Like, there's no way that they're just selling out of all this produce. Like, this produce is sitting out there until it sells out. Yeah. And then you bring it home and it just does not do well at all.
Have you noticed that all the produce is like, oh, nasty and decrepit now? Like in the last, ever since the pandemic, I can't find good tomatoes, good apples. Like you gotta just, a bruise or two is gonna be on any one of them that you choose. You know what I'm saying? And some of them
or it's just too perfect because you know it's been like made somewhere in a factory.
The worst is when I grab the apple and then I rip the sticker off and there's a big ass little sore in the apple, like they tried to cover it up. And it's bro, you ain't fooling nobody.
You know what's funny about apples? So, you know how everybody talks about wax being on apples?
Yeah.
So, apparently, apples naturally produce wax, right? But, okay, cool. Like, good to know apples naturally produce wax. However, because the commercial processing of the apples goes through such an intense cleansing process, the cleaning agents strip the natural wax, and so then they have to replace the natural wax with FDA approved.
The stuff they don't tell you.
Yeah, a little chemical coating.
And it's like food grade, and it's like I'm so tired personally of people being like, "Oh, well, it's food grade."
Food grade doesn't mean anything.
Kellogg's cereal is food grade. Pop-Tarts
Red
are
40 is food grade.
Like, what is it? Why are you arguing that something is food grade? Like, I literally talk to people on a regular basis who require as much of a non-toxic life as possible. And knowing things like this, like the misters and, you know, synthetic waxes and stuff like that. It's like, first of all, if that's the case, if apples naturally produce a wax, can we just skip the cleaning step? Can we just work on pushing out propaganda that normalizes dirt on apples?
Yeah, and then wash it when you get home with some water like we used to do, right?
Yeah, like literally, I would much rather have to wipe off, rinse off, wash off the natural dirt and the natural wax than have to pay for you to wash these apples, then replace the wax, and it's bad for me.
Ultimately ruin the health,
process. So it's kind of ridiculous. I think that we need, so one of the arguments that got started in the comments of the misting video was people thinking that I was saying we need to eradicate it. And, and I definitely corrected some people like, no, unfortunately, we do need it right now because our food is disgusting, right? Like our food is grown in environments where it's just
it won't make it to the store.
It's mass production, so the quality and the care goes down
to the store. But the reason why grocery stores use chemicals like that is to prevent listeria, salmonella, and E. coli, right? Why? Because my garden is not going to give me listeria or E. coli. It's because the farms, these industrial farms, are so disgusting.
The way they feed the animals, the way they house them, everything.
Let me ask you this. I feel like spirituality and conspiracies, if you go one in direction farther into that direction, you're going to go into the other. Meaning if you get into spirituality, you're eventually going to get into conspiracies and the other way around. Yeah. Are there any favorite conspiracies you have, or is there any that you feel like right now should be a little bit more known to the public?
Yeah, there's a couple. So there's one, I get really fascinated by people's fixation right now on the Matrix. I think people's perspective on the Matrix is really interesting because a lot of people are saying that the Matrix is this hologram that was designed by either elites or other entities, right? Which, could be the case, right? However, whether or not that's the case for our reality as a whole is a matrix, right?
Absolutely.
God is literally projecting the physical world. So whether or not we want to create the story that there's a secret society of people creating this hologram, even if that was true, it's because God wanted to play that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we do live in a matrix, and that's not a bad thing. It's about realizing that, actually the path to spirituality, the path to enlightenment is realizing you are not the matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
Experience the matrix, but there is a separation. And when you can separate yourself from the physical body, the physical world, the physical ego, and see that you actually exist outside of it, and the matrix exists inside of you, then your whole world just changes for the better. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think simulation theory and the matrix theory and people, saying that that's basically what we live in, and that being like the common idea now and the general consensus is, I think it's because it kind of gives what every ancient tradition and religion was saying from the beginning, whether it's Hermeticism, Gnosticism, Hinduism, they're all saying that this 3D reality is not really real and it's based on a projection of a higher consciousness. And I think because people are so adverse to understanding things from a religious perspective, just because what religion has done over time, it's easier for them to see it from like a technical, logical computer perspective. So with that being said, simulation theory is kind of like the best way to describe it to someone without having it be a distorted lens through them, because you're not explaining it through religious concepts or terms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Because people, whether they want to call themselves atheist or not, atheism has definitely influenced our culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. for the better or worse. I'm not saying atheists are good or bad, but it's definitely a response to, or a reason why we are so Western science driven. Mm-hmm. As if science and spirituality are not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been breaking down the knowledge for us today. You gave us a lot of topics to think about and stuff like that. You have a wonderful story. Is there anything you want to leave with our guests and our listeners on the way out?
So, I just started my social media.
Okay.
So be on the lookout. Follow me. I got a lot of really good knowledge. I'm funny sometimes. I have a very different perspective and approach on spirituality and life. So if you're looking for something new, something that's a lot more lighthearted and something that's really digestible, follow me. I am coming out with links and products and services. They're just in the making right now. So, but you can still gain so much from my videos.
Where can they follow you at?
TikTok, Marisa Tragsiel, MARISATRAGSIEL.
I'll tag you right here.
Cool. Awesome.
Appreciate you.
You guys heard it. That was Marisa Tragsiel. Thank you guys, outsiders, for tuning in, for listening, for watching the show. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share our clips and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'm Stilo Free. This is
Stop 420.
And we out.
Peace.